Could Starfield's new release date cause problems for Cyberpunk 2077's first and only expansion, Phantom Liberty? Stick around and find out. Alright you guys, there's not a whole lot going on in the world of Starfield, but we're still fresh off the heels of the previous Starfield update, in which we finally found out a release date for the game, as well as a date for the premiere of this new Starfield Direct, in which we'll surely find out a whole swath of new information about Starfield. Swath. I've been waiting to use that word. This will likely include a deeper look at flight mechanics, RPG systems, some in-depth looks at locales and people, as well as some new insight into combat, companions, base building, you name it. Bethesda doesn't really tend to hold back too much when it comes to their game premieres, save major details about the plot or other things they want to keep under wraps until the game releases. Now switch from Bethesda to this team of game developers over in a land called Poland. You may have heard of them. They're probably best known for a game called Gwent and another little gem called Roach Race. Just kidding. These are the guys that made either the best game you've never played or the worst game that you're obsessed with. It's called Cyberpunk 2077. Now, as Crowbycat, Crowdcat, however you want to pronounce that, would state in the title of this expertly crafted video, CD Projekt Red would go on to overpromise, sell, and ultimately underdeliver Cyberpunk 2077. Great video, by the way, I highly recommend it, but don't take this flop to heart too closely as far as your ultimate opinion of this game. Coming from someone who's unabashedly dumped hundreds of hours into it, not only has it vastly improved from its dumpster fire state that largely affected console players, but it's just become a really solid game with a jarring and unforgettable narrative and can best be summed up as a dystopian sci-fi open world or disco RPG. Okay, so that's not a real thing. Anyway, though it still has its flaws, Cyberpunk 2077 has received a slew of patches, updates, bug fixes, and additional content in the form of bite-sized DLCs, with the highly praised Edge Runners anime on Netflix accommodating the arrival of the September 2022 Edge Runners 1.6 update to the game. Cyberpunk would reach peak numbers and the highest concurrent player base since its release back in December of 2020. This is the very reason why I named my PC Cyberbug 2020. Cyberpunk seemingly survived the apocalypse and proved that it has staying power even 2.5 years after its initial release, showing an average of 15,000 to 20,000 players daily even now, which is pretty crazy for a single-player game that's been out nearly 3 years and flopped on release. This should tell you that their marketing strategy for the game, as well as their commitment to improving it over time, has been pretty effective in reviving public interest in this franchise. After all, it does have a ton of potential. You know, what is it about a game with high potential that just doesn't quite live up to it, that makes them so intriguing? Like, oh, if I just learned to look past the flaws and see the good things and, deny that part of myself that says, you deserve to be happy. I don't know. Anyway, speaking of potential, as many of you know, CDPR seeks to capitalize on that potential sometime in 2023, as they're set to release a brand new addition to Cyberpunk in the form of the highly anticipated Phantom Liberty expansion. If that sounds like the name of the next Metal Gear game, rest assured it was definitely inspired by the likes of Hideo Kojima's previous works, as Phantom Liberty is set to take on a, quote, spy thriller arc for its storyline. This isn't unusual to me considering Hideo Kojima himself can be found in the prologue of Cyberpunk, in the Konpeki Plaza chatting up a bunch of rich assholes at a fancy bar lounge, and talking about conveying human emotion through technology or something. Anyway, Hideo also brought Cyberpunk DLC to Death Stranding, so there was definitely some collaboration there. Being the first and sadly the only expansion that CDPR is going to make for Cyberpunk 2077, CDPR plans to pull out all the stops in this one, stating that they plan to bring a lot of new content and reworked systems to the game. This will include a new police pursuit system, probably similar to GTA 5, instead of cops spawning out of thin air to one-shot you, along with a reworked melee combat system with new finishers, the addition of vehicular combat, finally, improved cyberware, new weapons, vehicles, and more. On top of that, CDPR also revealed that Phantom Liberty is their largest expansion ever made in terms of budget, with not only Saint Keanu reprising his role as larger-than-life rock star with a streak of douche Johnny Silverhand, but also the addition of friggin' Idris Elba voicing an entirely new character for the expansion. I imagine that most of the budget probably went to paying the two Hollywood celebrities to take part in this venture, although the expansion does seem very ambitious in its own right. Now, when speaking of that ambition, this is where we start to encounter problems. Potentially, CDPR and Cyberpunk's biggest problem: Starfield. If you're a fan of Cyberpunk, or you've been following it for as long as I have, you might be aware that Phantom Liberty still does not have a release date. If you're like me, this comes as a surprise, considering I honestly thought we'd be getting our hands on Phantom Liberty within Q1 of this year, much like we all thought we'd be getting our hands on Starfield in the first half of the year. It almost seems like the wait for Phantom Liberty is getting dragged along as slowly as the wait for Starfield. This is where things start to look a little dicey for CD Projekt. After a recent earnings report for the fiscal year of 2022, CDPR revealed that the marketing campaign for Phantom Liberty will start in June. That's right, June, the same month that the Starfield Direct premieres. It almost seems like the scheduling of promotions and release dates of the games are starting to parallel each other. Now, it could be that this was the plan all along because CDPR would have no way of knowing when Bethesda intended to release Starfield, considering it was delayed twice. Sound familiar, CDPR? Yeah, a little taste of your own medicine, maybe?
Believe me, we never ever intended for anything like this to happen.
This could come back to bite CDPR in the ass pretty hard, especially if they intend to release Phantom Liberty anywhere close to September 6th. While this may not seem like a huge deal to most, especially those who plan on playing Starfield and Phantom Liberty, this does present a problem for CDPR as well as content creators like myself who hope to cover both games leading up to and upon release. Undoubtedly, Starfield would overshadow the expansion to a game that's been out for nearly 3 years, if they came out around the same time, that is. This is CDPR's big chance to completely restore faith in their Cyberpunk franchise by making sure that Phantom Liberty is an absolute banger. Although this may fall on deaf ears when left in the noisy shadow of Bethesda's new IP. Surely CD Projekt Red would have more sense than this, right? And surely they wouldn't release Phantom Liberty in Q4 just to miss Starfield. I think by that time, no one will care near as much. I mean, I really feel like people are going to be obsessed with Starfield for a long time to come, so I don't think it would be smart to release Phantom Liberty any time after Starfield's release. I mean, it's possible that they could just be caught between a rock and a hard place on this one, or they're just confident that Starfield's release and Bethesda's fanbase won't have any significant impact on the sales of their expansion. Maybe it represents a different demographic? I don't know. I feel like the most sensible way to handle this would be to run a short marketing campaign for the month of June and release Phantom Liberty in the month of July. What do you guys think? That gives the game a healthy 2 months to make waves leading up to the release of Starfield. I really think July would make a good time to release Phantom Liberty, not just because it makes sense fiscally, but because the whole presentation and color scheme gives off this vibe of like a presidential 4th of July fireworks and political intrigue kind of setting. It even shows the red, white, and blue new United States flag on the side of the burning plane or AV in the background of the title screen. This makes a lot of sense to me that this is what they're planning, because typically DLC expansions wouldn't get the same length or amount of time spent on marketing as a full game release. Hopefully, we'll get Phantom Liberty sometime in July, and I can make some awesome videos on that while I keep bringing you Starfield content leading up to its release. Anyway, I want to hear your thoughts on it. Are you looking forward to Phantom Liberty? Would you even play it if it came out around the same time as Starfield? Do you think that Cyberpunk 2077 is finally going to get the treatment it deserves in Phantom Liberty? Post your thoughts, ideas, and opinions on the matter down below, and I'll be sure to respond as I always do. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you're into Starfield, Cyberpunk, sci-fi, and space games. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next video as we look forward to the future.